Welcome to Future Foodcast. I'm Pam Line-Miller, your host. Thank you so much to our sponsor, Farm to Plate. They are a software company committed to creating tomorrow's food business ecosystem today. I am very excited to have our guest today. Wait until you hear all of the innovative things that are going on at his company. His name is Vishal Vijay. He is the Director of Strategic Investments with Agrocorp International. Welcome to the podcast, Vishal.
Thanks, Pam. A pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. And I do have to mention that we're literally across the world from each other. For our listeners and viewers that may not know, I'm headquartered in the southeast of the United States, and you are right now 12 hours ahead of me in Singapore. So that's kind of fun. We truly do have an international podcast. We did before, but now we foray into Singapore. We're excited about that. Well, tell us about what's happening just broadly at Agrocorp International that you're involved with.
There's probably less that I'm involved with than there's stuff that I'm involved with.
Okay.
I'm part of the general management of the company and really looking at the overall, we chart a course and we try and maintain our path towards achieving our targets. The company was started by my dad 30 years ago, and kind of the second generation management that's in the company. My brother's in the company too, so it's both of us that are really trying to continue on this trajectory of growth that we've had over the last few years, and hopefully have a business that can last many generations doing the good work that we've been able to do so far.
I didn't realize you were family owned, second generation. I think that's really exciting to hear, and I know our listeners love that. It's kind of nice to see you carrying on the mission that your dad started.
Thank you. Thanks. We are the underlying business is really to connect the parts of the world that grow food and agri commodities to the parts of the world that, especially in the Asia Pacific region, that need that product in order to meet the nutritional requirements of their population. So our major markets are countries such as Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Indonesia. These are countries with large populations, fairly that have limited arable land and require this and do import some of their food and agri commodities requirements. We work with all the large food manufacturers and processors in that part of the world, and we help them with their sourcing, such that they don't need to have people on the ground in the parts of the world that produce the product that they need. These are far away parts of the world, like in the US and Canada and Brazil and in the Black Sea region. So that's kind of the service that we provide, and that's been the bread and butter part of the business that we've been able to develop and expand off of into some of the more new and exciting areas, such as an alternative protein and we've been I think the role that the business is playing is still important, especially in the last couple of years with all the challenges that we've seen with regards to food security coming from the Russia-Ukraine conflict, as well as COVID. I think that's really elevated the kind of role that companies like us actually play.
Exactly. You're trying to you're staying close to the farmers who are producing and trying to source that product for those countries that can't provide enough food for their own people, or they don't have, like you said, the land to be able to grow that. And you're marrying those two, bringing them together, and really providing a service on both ends of that. And that's really been your core business, and very needed, by the way. We don't, as consumers, we don't hear the name Agrocorp International, but there's so much that you do behind the scenes to enable some of the bigger manufacturers and the different countries that you service to be able to provide their products to their consumers. So that's really been the core of your business, and that's obviously very profitable. But then the other part is that you're moving on to you've still got that core business, but you've got some exciting things going on at Agrocorp, some new business ideas and some innovation that's happening. I know you just talked about, I think you said something about plant-based. I'm not sure, but I know that's something I would like to talk to you about today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we're, with the core business, we've become one of the market leaders in pulses, which are products such as lentils, chickpeas, that come under legumes, but a subcategory of legumes. So it doesn't include soy, but includes like I said, lentils, chickpeas, peas, faba beans. So we've become a market leader in that particular market. And we wanted to see what more we could do in this space. And in the last few years, there's been as you've seen, around the world with brands such as Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods coming to the fore, especially you're seeing those brands feature more and more on your dinner plate. I think we've started to see a lot of interest in what role pulses can play in this push towards more sustainable diets and a more sustainable food supply chain. So we started, a few years ago, we started investing and we set up our first facility in Canada that extracts protein from beef, and that's been running now for I think 4 years now, and it's doing quite well, supplying pea protein into the North American market. And we've also once we started doing that, the next step was to see what more we could do. Once we produce the ingredient, how do we make the ingredient processing better, and what are some of the food applications we can devise with the ingredient? So that's under that premise, we then started a research facility here in Singapore, where we've got a few researchers working on understanding the functional properties of plant proteins better, as well as trying to conceptualize applications that use these products. And then one thing obviously leads to another, and on the back of that, we then launched, a couple of years, about 18 months ago, we launched our consumer brand, which is called Herbyvore, where we've got these plant-based dairy products, which today mainly cheeses, that use the proteins that we manufacture. And that's that brand is really trying to address some of the challenges that we see, at least in the plant-based industry today, in which products have very long ingredient lists and may not necessarily provide a healthier option as they do a sustainable option. So we're trying to really conceptualize products high in nutrition, as well as maybe little we use a rule of 10 in our labels, where we try and keep it to 10 or less ingredients in each of the products.
10 or less. I'm sorry, explain that to me. 10 or less, rule of 10.
10 or less ingredients.
Oh, ingredients. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you're getting from all the long lists that you were talking about and really staying more straightforward. And so those of us who are consumers actually can read the label and know what we're getting in our
product. Having all the most recent consumer reports that have been coming out have suggested that consumers really are reading labels more than they've ever done so in the past, and their decisions on what brands to buy and what not to buy really stems from understanding what kind of health benefit the product will provide to themselves. So that's the number one consideration, even higher than price today. So we're trying to, and that's been actually more of a recent shift, I think, and especially I think COVID has contributed to that, because it's really the pandemic really made everyone more aware of their health than ever before. So I think I think we're what we are trying to do at Herbyvore is to try and build something that's aligned with this particular trend.
Right. And with the Herbyvore line, I know that I should have really said plant-based protein too, that part of what you were trying to do with the pea protein and some of the other things you're extracting, working with the legumes. But you also are answering one of the main consumer trends, which is the pandemic. You're absolutely right, Vishal. Consumers are more interested in healthier diets because they're realizing that really shoring up their immune system and eating better is going to help their body fight off disease and just keep them healthier moving forward. They are paying attention. You're absolutely right. They are reading the labels and they care what's on the label. So obviously you've done your research and you know exactly what's going on with them, but we are definitely reading the labels. So I think that your focus is absolutely right on. I hope that things start to take off for those brands. I don't know how they're doing, how the plant-based proteins are going as far as gaining traction, but people are more open to having alternatives on their plate.
I think the long-term trend is strong. I think recently, there's been, especially, a lot of people have been talking about, how the Beyond Meat stock has been performing and using that as, as a reflection of the wider industry. And I think, the way I'd respond to that is, for example, when smartphones first came about, there was a lot of people that were against it, and were talking about, how can you keep this bulky thing in your pocket, and I think we're still in the very, very early days of the innovation cycle. I don't think we've even seen, the Apple grade of plant-based products in the market yet, right? So I think you will, over the next 4 to 5 years, see a better quality of product coming into the market. And so I think there's just this short-term volatility that we're seeing today. But I think the long-term trend is robust. And I think, whenever we look at trends, we try and operate off of fundamentals, and the fundamentals remain as it is, right? We still do have an issue with our food supply chains in terms of making it more sustainable. Global warming is still a challenge that we need to address today. And, sooner or later, we're going to have to figure out a way to reduce our emissions. And there was a report from BCG, I think it was about 9 to 12 months ago, that really said that, one of the major ways that mankind can contribute towards lower emissions is adopting more of a plant-based diet, right? So I think, we'll get there. I think, in the short term, obviously, there's a little bit of uncertainty, but in the longer term, and I don't mean longer term as in 50 years. I think I'm talking longer term as in 5 to 10 years. I think we'll get there. And, all the decisions that we are making as a company is with that view in mind that, even though there is short-term uncertainty in the plant-based space, we still are doubling down. We still are investing more. We still are growing what we can because we believe that the 5 to 10 year horizon is robust.
Yeah, nice. And I think your example is a good one. Maybe the market is shaking out a little bit and people are deciding what direction they want to go and what they like and don't like. And, do they just want things that look like the meat they normally eat, or are they open to other newer products that, it's doesn't necessarily look exactly like a burger, so you call it a plant-based burger, or, that kind of thing. I think that it's all going to become identified as we move further down the road, and more people are adopting eating some of these kind of products. I think you're right about that. We're just going to shake out a little bit, but the future is strong. I mean, we just need to figure out some alternatives. I don't think meat eating will ever go away because there's a vast part of the population that I feel like will continue to be meat eaters or eat meat as a part of their diet. But I certainly think there's a place for the plant-based proteins as well, and nutritionally to, take us forward. And the health benefits are good too. And the less processed, the less ingredients in there. I think that's a real positive that you were talking about with one of your focuses is the less processed, because that is a challenge with some of the plant-based things. They have to be very processed to get them to simulate the meat products. And so the less things, ingredients you can put in there, the better you are. So that's really great. Well,
you've actually hit the nail on the head there with the word simulate, right? So that actually is not as important as what a lot of brands have thought, right? As I said, the main consideration is health, and then second is price, right? And third is taste and texture. None of those top three are saying that you need to mimic what the conventional proteins, right? If you provide a nice enough user experience, it could be a unique user experience, but if you provide a nice enough user experience, consumers will get there, right? And I was reading there was some interesting commentary on social media this past week about how the plant-based market needs to follow markets such as quinoa, for example, where quinoa is now, the consumption of quinoa around in North America and in Europe is something like $80 to $90 billion a year, right? It's become one of the major carbohydrate replacements on your dinner table, right? And that that didn't come about because quinoa said, "Hey, I'm the new rice." Quinoa, the quinoa market, with some intelligent marketing, focused on a lot on the health benefits, as well as the ancient grains angle, where this was something that mankind has historically been consuming, but not more recently. So I think that's that. I thought that is something that's very interesting as well, and could be a path that some of the plant-based brands also take. I think there's been this over focus on simulating these products that have existed for millennia, which is very difficult to do, and may not necessarily be the most important thing to do as well. And because of this focus on simulating what the consumer is used to, you then end up adding a whole bunch of extra ingredients and making your food product look more like a chemistry project than a food product, right? Which could be counterintuitive for what you're trying to achieve with the consumer. So.
Yes, counterintuitive is exactly right, and that is my comment. So I'm glad to hear you say that. The majority of what I've seen, however, is companies trying to simulate the meat products. It's bacon that looks like bacon, or it looks like a sausage, or it's a plant-based burger. It looks like the meat patty, but it's a plant-based burger. And I'm glad to hear you say that maybe the total focus shouldn't be on that. Maybe your total focus isn't on that. It's on some of the health benefits and the pricing. And of course, you want to have a good tasting product, no matter what it looks like. I think consumers aren't going to continue to eat it if it doesn't taste good. I was an early adopter of protein bars, for example, a long time ago, and they used to taste like cardboard. I don't know if you ever, when you work out.
Still do.
No, they don't. There's
some do.
But I don't eat them as much as I used to. But early on, it was a hard trade-off if you wanted to. So I get what you're saying, and I'm happy to hear that you're not trying to make it a science project, like you were saying, to add all the different things in there. So that'll be fun development. Well, you're also partnering with some universities to do research. I mean, back to, your bread and butter, and really what your company was founded on is the crops and the things that are grown. So tell us a little bit about some of the research you're doing in those areas to improve how we're growing.
Sure. So, we're trying to partner with research institutions as well as companies to develop, to try and address inefficiencies in the entire supply chain spectrum, right? So one of the strong research collaborations we have is with the Singapore Institute of Technology, where we are really looking at, we've got a team located at their laboratories here in Singapore, really trying to work out, how do we better extract, how do we improve the efficiencies of extracting proteins from pulses? And when you improve the efficiencies, obviously the cost of the protein comes down. Trying to improve, use a more enzyme-based extraction approach. Today, the conventional extraction methods for protein do involve acid precipitation, which in some definitions prevents the ingredient from being classified as a clean label ingredient. So we are trying to introduce a more enzyme-based approach to extraction. We also trying to when you extract protein, the byproduct is starch, which is not the most high value ingredient. We're trying to convert some of the starch into glucose, which is a higher value ingredient. And when you get more value for your byproducts, the value you need to get from your core product also comes down. So everything that we're trying to do is essentially to bring down the cost of the plant-based protein, which would then promote wider adoption. That's one set of the research that we're doing. The other side is really to understand functional properties of plant-based proteins more, and how we can apply that better to create a higher quality of consumer product, right? Where we are trying to look at the three focus areas, better health, better lower price, as well as good taste and texture, right? As I said, one of the our research focus is not to mimic the conventional protein. I think that will come naturally with the third focus of taste and texture. But that's not the overarching goal. Then beyond just this, with some of the advanced breeding companies, we're trying to work with them to develop higher protein and cleaner tasting seeds that can be grown and brought into the extraction process. So if you have a better quality of raw material, you'll also have a better quality of finished product as well.
Okay.
So that's how we're kind of trying to do something on an end-to-end basis. We also understand that we're a company. We're not like a large FMCG like a Unilever or PepsiCo or something like that. So we can only we need partners in order to do the research work that we're doing. So that's we're trying to find good partners to work with, and we're still open to that. We're still open to collaborating with more counterparties too.
Sure. Do you have any recent partnerships that you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is more on the processing side, but we recently announced a joint venture with a dairy company in Japan to set up a new protein extraction facility in Malaysia. And this facility will be different to what we're doing in Canada. In Canada, we're using a dry extraction technique to produce a protein that's in the 60 to 65% concentration range. The facility in Malaysia will produce a higher grade of protein that's in that 80 to 85% range. And I think this partnership is really cool because, we're kind of, as opposed to trying to compete with dairy, we're trying to partner with dairy to popularize plant-based proteins. Because, the company we're partnering with, they're called Megmilk Snow Brand, and they're one of the top 3 largest dairy companies in Japan. They're a publicly traded company there, and they themselves understand that they can't ignore the push towards more sustainable plant-based diets. So they want to invest and get involved in the same area as well to future-proof their business. So as opposed to trying to compete or resist these kind of partnerships, I think it's important that we do partner even with the dairy industry to try and popularize plant-based products. And the way they're seeing it is they want to develop, as part of, they want to work with us to unlock, Japanese market. And, Japan has 150 million consumers, one of the top 10 largest, population bases in the world, but also, very similar in profile to the type of consumer that's in the US. So I think, it's a very strong market for plant-based proteins as well. So we're very excited about that partnership.
Nice, Vishal. I'm really glad to hear you say that. I think there is so much to be gained by collaboration in the food industry, and rather than the competitive spirit, like you were saying, there are things to be gained for both of you to collaborate on this. And again, future-proof really both of your businesses moving forward together with the best of both. So glad to hear that. Well, we've talked about lots of things that Agrocorp International is involved in, researching, some product ideas that you have. Is there anything else that you would like to leave with our audience before we go?
I think you touched on it earlier, right? The audience may not have heard of us. We're kind of, we're mainly a B2B brand, a B2B company, really working with some of the large food manufacturers and processors around the world that some of the audience would have heard of. But I like doing these kind of sessions like this because we were able to touch, reach out to an audience that may not have heard of us, and maybe get a little bit of understanding of the kind of work that we do and the importance of it. So I think that's really cool. I think hopefully as we with our plant-based brand, as that scales up, today the focus of that brand has mainly been in Singapore and the nearby markets. But over the next few years, we hope to get that brand out into Europe and North America too. So I think hopefully more people will get to hear of us and understand what we do from that brand scaling up. I think the last thing is I think we're going to see some really exciting. It's a very exciting time to be in this business. I think we've seen a lot of volatility in the financial markets and more recently in the tech markets, I think. But I think in this particular industry for food supply chains, as well as especially in the area of making these supply chains more sustainable, I think there's going to be a lot of developments that comes into the space over the next few years, and I think it's an extremely exciting space to be in. So I'd urge everyone who has an opportunity to be in the space to try and get involved as well.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you educating our listeners and sharing the initiatives that Agrocorp has happening, and also really the foundation of your business, which is providing essential service and to countries that are in need of it, providing the food that they need to feed their populations. I really, really appreciate that. And I know our sponsor appreciates you coming on, because Farm to Plate is all about enabling better food supply management, food supply chain management. And that's exactly the space you're in. So they are very interested in bringing this kind of information to the audience, because people don't really know what goes on kind of in the B2B world. We know what we buy at the end, but we don't always know how it gets there and all that goes on in the research that you're doing. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, Vishal.
No problem.
Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Pam. Really enjoyed being here.
Thanks for listening to Future Foodcast. Future Foodcast is powered by Farm to Plate, the leading food blockchain platform. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to stay up to date with the very latest innovations in the food industry.